Everyone can call themselves a biological dentist. There is no trademark, no standard, nothing at all. We are changing the whole profession from us being a technician into a complete health expert. For the whole time that you are wearing these fillings, you're chronically intoxicating you with mercury. We have to remove this as highly toxic waste from the clinic when we remove it from a patient. This is what we used in the 90s. Video camera, where I'm digitalizing these right now. Now we can film with an iPhone. Why would we use the same titanium implant that were invented before this at the same time as we have an iPhone 16 Pro Max? It's just an upgrade. These little kids mostly, they're not prepared for a surgery. What happens is that comes as a shock to the system and your body doesn't recover here and is not able to be anabolic enough to build bone tissue here. And it only closes secondarily, like the gum will be closed and there will be a little bit of cortical bone, but inside oftentimes not enough nutrients to build spongeous bone. And therefore we create so-called cavitations. Basically just an ongoing construction site, a chronic silent inflammation in your jawbone. It could be triggering all chronic health issues that you have. Could be the trigger for anything that you couldn't figure out yet on your journey to optimal health.
Dr. Dom, let's jump in talking about a typical morning. When you wake up, what you're doing, take me through all the steps you use each and every day to take care of your mouth.
Thanks for the question. So basically, when I start the morning, when it comes to oral health, I would just first think about hydration actually and start my day with some water and some, usually I put some Celtic sea salt in it and just drink it. A couple of aminos with it, collagen. That's how I start with hydrating. But I feel like you're referring more to the oral care routine.
But let's bring it all in. This is great. Keep going.
Yeah, bring it all in. So I will do that. Hydrate first. That's literally a morning routine for me. It is a special amino acid concoction I'm doing, not just the essentials, a couple of other things for my neurotransmitters and for my detoxification, Celtic sea salt. I put in collagen, which is usually marine collagen. And then also oftentimes I just smash in a little bit of methylene blue at the same time, 10 milligrams usually. I like that in the morning. Preparing myself to do some movement. That's how I start the day. Usually it's some sort of workout or running around. And if I'm at that preparing, I usually just start, let's say, the oral health care routine after all this. Yeah. So I will then do obviously the normal tongue scraper that everyone should do in the morning when you wake up or after your workout. And that is just a 10-second, maybe 15-second routine. Again, we're talking about routines because that's the beauty of it. You have to be consistent. Then it's the magic. It's nothing special in itself if you not do it. While after training, I usually also prepare my breakfast, which means I have some extra time to do coconut oil pulling, which is the upgraded version of chemical toxic loaded mouthwash. You just do a teaspoon of coconut oil, put it straight into your mouth and then swish it around for at least 5 minutes to even 15. And that's what I mean. I have extra time while I anyways do something, especially cooking the breakfast in the morning. Then I usually sit down and eat and drink a coffee. And I wait at least for, let's say, 20, 30 minutes after that before then finally brush my teeth. And brushing the teeth involves just a soft toothbrush. And again, when it comes to toothpaste, not a normal conventional toothpaste that you find in the local supermarket, but something that is completely free of any toxin. I've actually designed my own toothpaste that is available in Europe, which is kind of like it goes without all the toxins, but obviously instead of fluoride has an active ingredient. So everyone knows going to the dentist, you usually use some fluoride, but biological dentists don't believe in that. But I feel like we still need something that is actively helping your teeth to remineralize after all that have you done before. So hydroxyl apatite needs to be in a good toothpaste. Could be also, again, on coconut oil base, but make it natural. It's something you put into your mouth you want to eat. And if it's full of like 10 things you cannot even pronounce, it's usually not the best idea. So hydroxyl apatite, xylitol should be in there. Just clean. Think of it as food. So that's the way I designed the toothpaste. It's for me and my kids. And actually, you shouldn't spit it out. You should leave it in your mouth because it will help your gums and your teeth to remineralize and to rebalance your oral microbiome. And then you're actually all set for the day. Also, at the same time, meal prep. So I'm all ready for a full day of performance, which is usually involving some sort of surgeries. And yeah, that would be the ideal morning routine, combining it obviously with the oral health care.
Okay, let's come back to the toothpaste. What's the name of the one you've created? And then secondarily, you mentioned hydroxyapatite being in there. I know there's micro and nano.
Yeah.
Does yours contain both of those?
Okay, number one is the toothpaste for now is only available in Europe, and actually it was sold out in 2 weeks instead of 6 months. So it is called more than a toothpaste because that's what it is. It is something clean that you can eat. And it contains, we have a special form. It's a micro hydroxyl apatite. And it's also surface activated. That is a special patent we use that we created in Germany, where I'm from. But I think it's a little bit too much of black and white in social media when it comes to nano hydroxyapatite being super terrible for your health. I don't think that's correct. I feel like, it is, it still can go into your enamel, and I don't think it will ruin your health completely. Micro has a little bit of a better surface. I think it's more in the detail. Same, for example, we have xylitol in our toothpaste. But also when it comes to xylitol, and this is maybe something that I like to sometimes clear up in all the social media myth and black and white thinking, because oftentimes you just see snippets of a huge podcast out there. And some people say, xylitol is bad for your health. It ruins your gut. And then we say it's good for your oral health. What is the difference here? Does it matter? And the difference is, or it matters because it's about dose. Toothpaste should contain xylitol in micro doses. That's milligrams. And then it actually acts as a Trojan horse because the, let's say, more pathogenic bacteria that feed on sugar also feed on xylitol. They eat it such as a Trojan horse, and then they explode because they cannot digest it. It's a little bit over-exaggerated, but that's what happens. However, if you spin this further and think about all the keto products and everything that is where they use artificial sweeteners, or let's say more natural sugar alcohols such as xylitol or erythritol, xylitol in large doses is obviously a strong antimicrobial. Micrograms for the mouth kills microbes. Macrograms, so grams that you use, will also affect your whole gut microbiome. That's when you get the diarrhea and when it becomes a little bit toxic. But that is just dose dependent because it is an antimicrobial in itself. So it is nuanced, but I feel that this is important to understand that, yes, xylitol can be a problem if it's too high in doses, but it can be very valuable microdoses. The same thing goes for refined vegetable oils. A tiny little bit of a sunflower oil in milligrams in a supplement won't kill you. However, pounding grams and oil in frying is a complete different game, and obviously super inflammatory. You know what I mean? Like, this is sometimes I just call it black and white thinking. That's a German translation. I don't know if you say that even in America or in international in English.
We do.
You do? Okay. Yeah, I feel it should be more nuanced in discussions. There's so many things where I feel like it's out of balance. Another one would be maltodextrin. Maltodextrin is the most insulinogenic carbohydrate, and it causes cancer. No. It is actually extremely insulinogenic. That's why it's used for pro bodybuilders for ages after a workout to replenish glycogen stores. Yes. And maybe in high doses for most people out there, it's not a good strategy. And it might even cause some sort of chronic inflammation and high insulin spikes. Correct. But sometimes maltodextrin is also an amazing prebiotic for your microbiome in microdoses. That's why it's sometimes used even in supplements or in, like, let's say, health formulations. But then if you don't have the, let's say, the nuanced knowledge, you will dismiss this in black and white scenarios and read this on a label and say, okay, that's bullshit stuff because I read this on there and there. And I feel like right now we're in a phase of, let's say, information overload, and I call them guests or patients out there sometimes don't see the forest for the trees anymore. It is super complicated. I'm luckily in that game for half my life, for more than 20 years. So I can differentiate a little bit. And that's also very important for me to get that out in podcasts. Also, when it comes to obviously all the dental stuff, because oftentimes we hear, let's just go with root canals. Root canals kill you. They're the baddest thing for you. And at the same time, some people say root canals are the best things for you. There is, again, a nuanced conversation we should have.
Well, I love this idea of nuance. And that's one of the beautiful things about a long form podcast like this, where we can really take time and get into a lot of different subjects and get into the detail. That's important because there is so much information coming at us in our TikTok world, Instagram world, and a lot can be lost in that format.
Exactly. And that's what I feel what happens. And this is why I also feel it's super important, for example, that I'm teaching a whole, like a lot of worldwide dentists to become real biodentists, to create we call it a biodentistry global standard, BGS. Why? Because if I now tell you after this episode, you have to find a biological dentist, then I'm actually throwing you out in the cold water there, because that is like saying you have to find a real estate agent now. Everyone can call themselves a biological dentist. There is no trademark, no standard, nothing at all. It's just a biological dentist could basically do whatever he wants. So therefore, I'm creating a complete transformation to what a dentist is look like. So we are changing the whole profession from us being a technician into a complete health expert. This is even hard to grasp for most of our colleagues out there. It's most of the time actually even faster for patients and guests to understand what I'm saying than for a classical trained conventional dentist. But this is how we go about it. We have to finally have some sort of standards. And then it becomes again about detail, also becomes about us as experts taking responsibility to learn more and to understand more about the whole body health, to then guide our guests on their journey to optimal health. We just start in the mouth. And because we kind of have to revisit old dental work that has been done in the past. So yeah, also that's something we can definitely dig deep into, because that's my life's mission. Started as health starts in the mouth, but it it basically transformed into a whole movement, so to speak. And I'm very happy that we're doing this, because then we can really help and bring change.
I agree. There's a lot we can already get into with what's come up. I want to come back to the toothpaste for now. And you brought up xylitol and how the dose is the poison. In a toothpaste, it is a good thing because there's so little. How do you feel about xylitol gum?
Is the same. In one gum, xylitol is probably not an issue. However, it could become, again, a dose-dependent issue if you are gum addicted and you're chewing gum all day long, which a lot of us do, actually. So I know this is a little bit of a subconscious thing sometimes, that we just like to chew on things for hours and days, and then maybe it can affect your gut microbiome again. Because if you eat 10 chewing gums a day, you might already get a little bit too much. But I think this is down again to the individual. If you experience some sort of, let's say, diarrhea or weird feelings, if you do that, then you know, oh, it was just too much. It's just a signpost of your body telling you that too much xylitol might not be the right strategy. And obviously, there's again the detailed nuance about, is the xylitol real xylitol from birch sugar, or is it chemically produced and GMO? I mean, that's all always difficult, and therefore we have to have transparency when it comes to the companies. But I feel that we're anyways at least going in this direction, that newer brands all communicate a little bit more closely what they're really doing. At least that's what I try to do.
When it comes to your toothpaste, only available in Europe. It's sold out now. When is there going to be more available?
So we're actually in this moment working right now on getting it also to America. And I hope that we can make this within the next 3 months. And in Europe, it will be available probably again within the next 6 weeks. So, and not right now is, I don't know when your episode airs, but we're in April now.
Okay. Another thing I want to cover that you mentioned in the realm of the toothpaste is fluoride.
Yeah.
And it's often found in drinking water and in dental products like toothpaste. Let's go 101 and talk about fluoride as a whole, why it's something you don't believe in and feel like it's something we want to avoid. Mm-hmm. And also in conventional dentistry, is it being phased out? Where are we at with that?
So right now it's actually that it's happening right now in America, that state by state, they are getting rid of water fluoridation. I think Utah was the first state, and I think Florida just signed on it too. One of my students is actually in that very deeply involved in that. So I think, again, it's dose dependent. I mean, water fluoridation, and I'm not the expert on that one, but I know there's so much going on about it. It's basically how to dissolve waste product that we use and put into the water. That is not something that occurs naturally. So we're basically using a chemical to fortify something, which makes no sense. So that's the first issue. Then we know that the fluoride we're using is not the sodium fluoride that would appear in nature, let's say, as in a normal substance. It's a completely different structure chemically. It is a chemical structure that we pour into it, and it is kind of like a poison. There are studies showing that it lowers the IQ even in your kids. I mean, it's all, again, dose dependent. It is in dental school, it is used as a agent to make your teeth harder. And it actually does make your teeth harder, but also way more brittle than elastic. And it is used as a strong disinfectant, but we also know that it goes through thyroid. I would just say it has so many, let's say, negative side effects, especially if you overdo it, that I'd rather go with something that does the same without any side effect. That's my approach on it. And yeah, why ingest the poison, even though it's maybe in low doses continually, if you could do it better with a natural substance that is more close to your tooth structure, the enamel in itself. I mean, that's just logic from my perspective. But we obviously have to go against, or not go against, but change running systems. I mean, toothpaste was containing fluoride and is containing fluoride in dental schools till now. There's no change there. I don't think they're phasing out anything. I think it's still common textbook dental school stuff to learn that fluoride is the standard of care. Every dentist, every hygienist will tell you that's what you have to do. There's only this tiny realm of more holistic approaches, biological dentistry, or what we're working on, the global standard biodentistry 3.0, that doesn't use it. It's 99.9% worldwide that will still use fluoride, and I'm probably quite sure about this. It's going to take another 20 to 30 years until that was going to be phased out.
And coming full circle.
Yeah.
The substance you were referring to there, the natural one, coming full circle, is the hydroxyapatite, which is something better we now have to replace that.
Yeah. Why not just use the normal stuff? And also, on top of the hydroxyapatite, we just use, the tooth is a crystal structure. We just need minerals. Sometimes it could also just be a magnesium, calcium deficiency. Usually it's magnesium deficiency, it's vitamin D3, sunlight deficiency. What makes the tooth weak in itself first? It's your nutrition, it's lack of sunlight, it's lack of minerals. That is the first start for that. It's not a lack of, so tooth decay is not a lack of, it's not a fluoride deficiency. It is maybe a deficiency in certain minerals and in sunlight and in the wrong nutrition, in the right nutrients. So,
one thing I noticed when you went through your routine, you didn't mention dental floss. And I know you personally don't use it, and you don't recommend others use it daily. This is something that across the board, even natural dentists or biological dentists typically do recommend. Talk about why you see it differently.
It is, again, nuanced. So for most listeners out there, you're probably good with your tooth floss. Just because you had been exposed to dental repair in the past, your teeth are not as tight together as mine probably, you might have had some sort of repair. So that means more food gets stuck in between teeth when you definitely need something to get it out. Is it a tooth floss? Is it maybe a water pick? Is it maybe something more gentle? Tooth floss can be very, very rough if you're not very good with your hands. And oftentimes what happens if you snap through, then you open up little, like, it starts bleeding. You basically cause leaky gum, same as leaky gut, and create an opening into your system, because below the gum is your bone, and the bone is inside body. And we don't want to have all the oral microbes jumping into your bone and going into a local inflamed tissue, gingiva. So that's why I'm sometimes a little bit hesitant when it comes to flossing. I personally don't have any dental repair. If I have food stuck in between, I will use a floss for sure. I would love to see a floss that is more natural, without BPAs and without glides and all the things that we just literally don't need. I mean, there's ideas about doing tooth flosses like with just natural fiber, the stuff that usually gets stuck in between your teeth that you then have to get out with a floss, could be even used to floss. So I think there's just further development and just challenging current belief systems and big corporation structures sometimes that are just there. I don't think they're necessarily there for a bad reason. I think they're just outdated and need some upgrades, such as everything. Like, I mean, everything evolves, right? Why should oral hygiene or oral care not upgrade? For example, we have actually a higher risk of periodontitis and gingivitis versus bleeding gums and even the bone structure below, like inflammation and tooth decay, in more developed countries that have more access to conventional oral hygiene, as in countries like Africa or Asia, which are oftentimes not as, let's say, close to getting an oral hygienist appointment or a row of toothpaste in the supermarket. So just saying, because they might have another lifestyle that might be helping them a little bit.
How much of that would you attribute to the lifestyle and diet versus the actual products we're using, that a lot of them are toxic?
Yeah, so I think the way how oral hygiene and oral care is developed, also what we study in dentistry, it is a band-aid for us living in an unnatural world, eating just the wrong food, the wrong lifestyle, processed food diet. That's what it all started. Look at Weston Price's work back in like 150 years ago, when he realized we were growing beautifully, eating all ancestral foods, living with nature, had no spacing issues, beautiful set of 32 teeth, no bleeding gums, no tooth decay, nothing, versus eating processed foods and looking like the little monsters with crowded teeth, no space, mouth breathing, and lots of gingivitis and inflamed gums. And he just directly connected it to the advent of processed foods. And if you look at our population now, our teenagers look like the ones he described. They're usually growing too narrow. They have no space for their wisdom teeth or other teeth. They need braces. They have gingivitis, meaning inflamed bleeding gums, and they have a lot of tooth decay. Tooth decay is #1 chronic disease worldwide, especially in the Western world. So lifestyle is definitely becoming before oral hygiene. I don't say we don't need to brush. That would be wrong, because most of the listeners out there having a normal lifestyle. I personally, with my nutrition and lifestyle that fits my genes, it's more epigenetically suited. I'm just eating real whole foods. That's basically it. I probably wouldn't need to brush my teeth because my teeth are always clean. There is no fur on it. However, if I would drink a Coke, I have it. If I eat like cereal from morning to evening, I need to use other things because I'm depleting myself of nutrients. And at the same time, that food is quite sticky and attaches to your teeth and then becomes a super surface for microbiome that eats it. So all the oral microbiome, the bacteria that lives with you, as maybe you notice, but studies are getting more and more, evolve more and more, like basically every single day. We have a good research department of development here, straight in my city, Tübingen. It's a huge university, huge research center, also about microbiome. And there's new studies coming out, and they can show you that the substrate you give to the microbiome, the food you eat basically, you can change the microbiome within 12 hours. So if you swap from a standard American diet to a more whole food based diet, you change your microbiome. You just eradicate the ones that love the sugar, that love the stuff that is processed. And the better, let's say the better ecosystem in your mouth, they don't even are so acidic anymore. They don't produce all these things and they're not as depleted. So it's all about a balanced situation. We need to find balance again. And therefore, I would say #1 is lifestyle choices, and then cleaning comes second. Even if you would be like super old school, if you would eat very ancestral, like eating and chewing a lot and eating lots of raw food, maybe too, like let's say an apple or carrot and all these things, they actually clean your teeth. Eat an apple or eat a raw carrot and you have super clean teeth afterwards. It's kind of like a natural toothbrush. But who does that? I mean.
All right. So when it comes to diet, avoid processed foods.
Yeah.
We want whole foods, real foods, ancestral diet. But let's get more detailed on this and talk about specific foods we want to make sure we're including that are good for the oral health. And then other than processed foods, other ones that are problematic.
Okay. avoid processed foods is just too soft. They're lacking nutrients. That is clear. By processed, I mean refined flour, refined sugar. You know what I mean? Like wheat, bread, all the stuff that we always eat all the time. Convenient foods, basically. So the first question was, which foods to support your microbiome and your teeth? Is that correct?
Yeah, a little bit more specific. We've talked about it from 30,000 feet out, but coming in more detail. And you could even use yourself as an example. What does your diet look like to support your oral health?
Also, we have to think about eating and chewing. Chewing trains your teeth, your bone structure and your jawbone muscle. These muscles, they don't come by eating soft food and eating and drinking smoothies all day long. So literally you have to also think about chewing. So let's say, think in nutrient-dense foods, stuff that we would have eaten for 2.5 million years. And you know that only within the last 10,000 years, we even started agriculture. So whatever you can fish, hunt, gather is usually quite fine. So I'm a big fan of meat, fish. I'm always eating healthy, organic food. Usually I get my meat from local farmers. I don't buy any, let's say, mass-produced stuff. I mean, that should be a disclaimer here that I'm talking about good quality foods. But then I would say it's meat, fish. It could be anything. Could be nose to tail if you like to eat organs. I personally like to actually eat more leaner meats. I'm not a fat eating guy. It's not good for me, not good for my health. It doesn't work for me. I'm more like a carbohydrate person. I'm a sports guy. I'm very athletic. I need a lot of carbohydrates. But I would rather eat like sweet potatoes or even some rice maybe. But I feel like if you go with real whole foods, you cannot do anything wrong. Also goes for if you're dairy tolerant, obviously you can eat raw dairy if you tolerate it. I mean, that could be an immunological trigger. Definitely, if you had a lot of conventional dairy in the past, could become allergic to your immune system. But if you tolerated it, then raw dairy might be a good option too. So eggs, meats, fish, like the complete basic real food. It's so simple. Almost nothing that it comes in a package. Stuff that you could, like I said, hunt, fish, gather, or even collect. Fruit is amazing. It's natural fiber. I personally also, if that's interesting for you, for me personally, I see nutrition and food as information. So in everything I teach, protein is a very important thing because we need it as a building block for your teeth, for your bones, for all the surgeries we're doing, but also for overall health. So protein goal is always there. So I'm obviously focusing on having protein with every meal. Personally, leaner meats, fish, eggs, very simple. One information, meat is one information. And then I usually combine it with some sort of a easy to digestible plant energy source. For me, personally, would be potatoes, sweet potatoes, white rice even, just as a simple energy source. And I like to eat fruit. That's for me a lot of fiber, like berries, raspberries, for example, have a lot of fiber. Because personally, I'm not a big fan of, let's say, vegetables and greens and all these things. I can eat them. I feel like I more got used to them because I think they're just healthy for me, giving a diversity to my microbiome when it comes to fiber. But naturally speaking, I probably wouldn't touch too much. I would never eat any greens as a kid, for example. I wouldn't even think about it. But fish, rice, meats, eggs, that's good for me personally. But I've developed something that's called the food design protocol or food design concept that all my guests that come visit us start before they see us. Like 4 weeks in advance, we prepare our patients, we call them guests, on their journey to optimal health so that they come in boosted. And it's based on 20 years of basically testing every diet out there that you can imagine. Keto, paleo, fasting, low carb, high carb, vegan, you know it. Like there's so many names for diets and they become mindsets, but the food design concept works as an umbrella above everything. And I teach my students also how to think in nutrients. So I've created my own algorithms for the average person that sees us on how to optimize their whole body starting in the mouth, because it's not just the dental stuff that we need to take out. It's also the food and the nutrients and the information we take in on a daily basis. So it becomes like a manual for a sustainable life, because I believe that nutrition is the foundation of everything, the motor, the food is medicine principle. And then from there, we refine and go into micronutrients. And I've created something called the bone healing protocol. That's also, it's way more evolved than a bone healing protocol, but it started as systemic bone healing. Now it's more like a complete functional medicine health matrix that is very simple, based on, again, the most important micronutrients, how they work in synergy to create hard teeth, hard as stone, healthy pink gums, and an amazing bone structure and good gut system. Because it's all there. We just start in the mouth and then optimize the overall body from there.
So the way you explain food there, it's clear you're supportive, at least for yourself, including carbohydrates, things like sweet potatoes, rice, berries. Talk about how they act differently in the mouth, and I'm assuming that because you do support them, versus something like a cracker or candy, where depending on who you talk to, they could lump those both into the same category of feeding the bacteria in your mouth, leading to dental decay. So talk about how you look at that.
Yeah. For me, protein is the building block, right? And the other two macronutrients are carbohydrates and fats. So we know there's a lot of talk about, is carbohydrates bad, is fats bad? And some believe we just have to extract carbohydrates completely because they are insulinogenic, they produce a fatty body, and so on. And I agree partially. There are many guests we're seeing that we put on a phase 1 protocol, which is very, very low carb, just to reset everything, get the insulin sensibility back, get the blood sugar stable again. So I'm very, very well aware of that. I was just talking about me personally. I'm very athletic, have a ton of muscle. And for me, my preferred fuel is just these carbohydrates. And therefore I choose, let's say, smarter carbs that come in nature, because basically carbohydrates is natural, is plants' energy source. Fats is more the animals, how we us personally store fats, right? Energy. So if you throw carbohydrates all in one box, such as, like you said, the crackers and all the refined stuff, this is a completely different reaction to how the body deals with these nutrients. So if you eat a cracker, it's basically like drinking a Coke or eating pure sugar, because it's so refined. It starts in the mouth with digesting it. It actually dissolves in your mouth already if you put the cracker there. Then the wrong bacteria will eat it, produce more acid there already. But also, when you swallow it, within a couple of minutes, your blood sugar level rises a lot, like drinking a Coke. Sugar levels goes up. You need to produce a lot of insulin to get that out of, and then you get these blood sugar spikes all day long. And those in itself, like blood sugar spikes in itself, will throw off your mineral balance, will throw off your saliva, making it more acidic. You replenish less good. So we have to get the blood sugar stable. So therefore, we have to become carbohydrate tolerant, of course, first, and then the crab stuff, the crab food that raises your blood sugar blood sugar level there, like classical sugar, which is the grains, the crackers, all these things. I wouldn't qualify them as natural, real carbohydrate sources. Those are just designer foods. They taste maybe amazing. They feel good in your mouth. They're designed to make you addicted. I mean, there's a whole host of chemical engineers behind all these things to make it even sound the way you love it as a consumer. So, and if you eat a sweet potato, for most people, they're not even enjoyable. Some call them vegetables. Yeah, for them they are vegetables. Potatoes are vegetables. For me, that's already a carbohydrate because it's a little bit starches. But if you eat them slowly and they have maybe even their skin on, you actually get a lot of fiber. So it takes your body a little bit longer to break it down, and you don't have as big of blood sugar spikes as you would have with like faster foods and more processed foods. Meaning the body's ability to stay balanced from the mineral balance, from the blood sugar, but also from then the saliva is completely different. It's just a completely different way. Same for sugar. Again, we should never eat fruit because then you're going to get diabetes. That is completely bullshit. That's complete wrong. Fruit, I feel like fruit is a way how I think we evolved eating sweet stuff. I teach my kids that superheroes, sweets are fruit. because they obviously grow naturally, and I think this is what the plant gives you to eat and digest. It's easier to digest, has a lot of fiber. But if you now start to do smoothies and you drink 5 fruits in one little tiny glass, it becomes completely different. You might overload your body with too much fructose. Again, we are at the beginning of our talk, where it's again nuanced in the amount that we eat. So I personally feel you should never ever eat. Oh, I mean, you can do a smoothie here and there, no problem, but you shouldn't do too much of it. Like a couple of fruit per day, like 2 to 3 pieces, probably not a problem if you eat it in a whole setting, because then it comes with the fiber content, it comes with other micronutrients, and there's or honey. It has been shown to, even though it contains carbohydrates, technically, it has been shown to sometimes even reduce blood sugar levels. So I think nature has it right again. And just because it says calories and carbohydrates on the back of your labeling, it's not the same. That's again what I said a couple of minutes before. For me, nutrition is information. What information does your body get? And I'm sure your body inherently knows the information of a banana or papaya or some berries and what to do with it more than a cracker, a fish cracker, independent of the fish cracker sticking in your teeth and producing acids there from the microbiome. So that's, I think, the nuanced way to see it. But again, high fructose corn syrup is nothing from nature that could be even more tremendous for your health. And I think this is something there is no healthy alternative for. Just skip that completely. And it's just super unhealthy.
I just want to make sure we fully parse out this piece before we move forward, where we can use the banana example. And I just want to stick to the mouth, where say we have a banana and the microbiome there starts to digest that, making the mouth more acidic and putting us into the demineralization state in the mouth. How does that differ for you compared to crackers or candy when we're talking about fruit like berries and bananas, sticking to the mouth again in the microbiome and how they react to that?
Yeah, I think the microbiome, it's just the bacteria. I think it's also the bacteria in itself, the same way as I explained the host. The way we digest the fruit is a different way as we digest the crackers. The same happens on a micro level for the bacteria. If the bacteria, the fast food, the ones that love the fast food win. So they get overpopularized, and they are the ones producing actually more acids, like Streptococcus mutans, Porphyromonas gingivalis, the usual suspect when it comes to tooth decay. Versus, you feed a complete different microbiome if you focus on eating fruit, because even these bacteria, maybe the bad ones, they don't even like fruit. They don't know how to digest it because there's fiber in it. They just shy away from it because there's polyphenols and all these other nice things in there. So it's a complete different set. It's like, I would say it's just, see the bug or like the microbe, the same way as us as a host, but in a micro environment, just doing it all faster because it's so fast in there. So if they get fast food, they might be able to produce their stuff faster, and you feed the wrong guys there. Parasites, for example, they love fast food. That's why sometimes you I have a lot of guests or patients that came with addiction to sugar. They have a sweet tooth. They cannot change it. Obviously, because of the sweet tooth, they also have very bad, poor oral dental repair work. And funny enough, sometimes when they come in and they have the health optimization week, we change the complete old dental repair. No more metals, no more root canals, no more inflammation in the jawbone. They report back that they don't have a sweet tooth anymore. We changed the complete oral microbiome. All these viruses and candidas and mold and other fungi, they lived oftentimes in root canals and poor oral dental repair, like that has to be revisited. They are then gone. We change it to a more normal one, and then you're not addicted anymore. So it's all about your microbiome, which is obviously on your skin, in your mouth, in your gut, in your everywhere. Like there's all sorts of different ones, and you can change that completely. But you never can change a gut microbiome if you forget about the oral microbiome, because that's actually the entrance hall to the gut. If you see it as a hotel, it would be the lobby. So yeah, you have to see the full picture.
Okay, so what you're saying then, bacteria in the mouth are going to react differently to these different foods. And then when it's something processed like again, we can use the example of a cracker or candy, that's going to lead to the acidic environment, demineralization in the mouth. And then while we're on this, let's bring the other piece of acidity in the mouth where somebody can have something like a carbonated water, coffee, kombucha. And this is independent of the bacteria, creating acidity in the mouth. And again, bringing us into that demineralization phase.
Yeah, this is something that is normal. Whenever we eat something or drink a coffee or a tea or an orange juice or whatever, Diet Coke, it's all going to inherently give you an acidic environment. Sometimes even more acidic because, for example, fruit juice is extremely acidic. And a coffee too, like it goes below, everything below 5, like the normal pH in the mouth is roughly 7.4, depending. Let's say for men, it's usually quite neutral. For women, it changes with their cycle because everything changes in there in the 4 weeks. Even the saliva gets more acidic. And if you just drink more acidic stuff, it will go below 5. And below 5 is when we speak about more of a demineralization. That means we're losing a little bit more minerals than we replenish. But if we get a little bit of time in between and we have enough minerals and an overall balanced system, body, it just bounces back. Your saliva is just a miracle molecule that will just instantly replenish the teeth and remineralize them. But it takes, let's say, 30 minutes. If you obviously have a lack of nutrients to replenish, then that's not going to happen because then your saliva might not be the miracle water you need. It might be a dry mouth that you have and you don't replenish anything.
Now, good point. We don't want people to fear entering that demineralization phase.
No, not at all.
It's just making sure we're not there all the time. Somebody sipping on coffee all day long and sitting in that phase, you want to make sure you have periods where you go there and then you come back to the remineralization and have the balance.
Everything is about balance. It is also about balance if you say you indulge into a Coke every 4 weeks because you just love it. It's also fine. You won't die from it. You have to have fun in your life. It is about balancing. And obviously, let's say there's something I call that resilience window. So people are more or less resilient. Resilient means how much stress can your body still tolerate? And obviously, I see a lot of high performance athlete. And I also saw or see still a lot of super chronically unhealthy, chronically diseased people. So they don't have a big resilience mode anymore. So you have to do a lot of things to get them back into this balance so that they don't throw out. Because if you're in a phase where you have to be afraid of every little food that you're eating, because if you eat, let's say, a fruit and you then have a digestive issue for days, then you're not resilient anymore. Then something is completely off. So you have to modernize or rebuild your complete house, your body again, so that this is not part of the future. So that's just a signpost. But I have a ton of these people. So that's why we always prepare our guests at least 4 weeks prior to, let's say, the removal of all the old bad dental repair, so that they really are resilient in that phase. And because we're doing then the dental part, like taking out the root canals, the metals, that is the biggest detox they're ever going to have. It's not the juice cleanse that is a detoxification. The biggest detox is taking out root sources of toxicity and of toxic burden that was installed. Because let's face it, you're not born with metals in your mouth or a root canal treated tooth. Those are things that were put in later, and you cannot biohack your way around this one. You have to get rid of this. And this is removing the source. That's literally going to be the biggest detox if done properly. And then obviously needs to repair it in a smart way. Ideally, you never want to see a dentist in the first place because your teeth are hard as stone naturally. But if that ship has sailed, we have to have some strategies here to fix it. And then we never see you again as a dental patient, at least, or guest.
And we're going to go deep into all those. But I want to make sure we finish here before we get into that. Say you talk to somebody who is going to come and see you, and they're in that preparatory phase where you want them building up before they come and get a procedure done with you. If they're not resilient, what are the foundational pieces that you have them work on to gain that back?
In order to see us, the foundation is change their diet and nutrition completely with the food design concept and basically replenish macro and micronutrients. That's what we basically do to build them up first. Then we're already quite more resilient. Some people, 80% of all the guests we're seeing in my hometown are actually from abroad. They fly in from Japan, they fly in from America, they fly in from Africa, they fly in from everywhere. It's like a destiny journey. There's only a handful that come from close by that we literally can see and tell them, hey, for you, the preparation actually takes 8 weeks. So that's why we average it out to 4. If you're already super optimized, we have a lot of these guests too that are already on a perfect diet. They eat a ton of nutrients. They are already built. That is my ideal scenario. That would be me personally. If I hurt myself, I can be in a treatment tomorrow and my body heals. That is the goal there. Obviously, when you prepare someone for, let's say, an average of 4 weeks to that phase of healing, when they arrive, they are with us for like a week. And in that week, there is a part of the oral procedure where we remove the metal safely and take out the root canals very, very, very gentle and take care of all the inflammation. However, on site, we have a complete health optimization center or biohacking facility, like an oasis of health. We have everything from IV nutrition, laser in your vein, hyperbaric oxygen, what is in English? Hyper and hypoxia, interval training. You name it. We have it all on site to mitigate and make that resilience frame even bigger so that you don't look like Rocky Balboa after treatment after procedure that we are performing here. The goal is always, if you come in and you had a lot of stuff done, you will have a museum of life moment that you will never think about a dental experience that you had in the past again, because we're not dentists. We're architects of optimal health starting in the mouth. And that is something that is not there yet. And obviously the future of biodentistry we're working on, let's say a Waldorf Astoria approach to how we treat our guests on their journey to optimal health. Again, we're starting in the mouth, but obviously optimize the whole system while doing that.
So we've covered the food piece, and the principles are basic: whole foods, quality foods, ancestral eating. If somebody's doing all that, are there any supplements you recommend alongside that to bring them to an even better place?
Yes, this is also part of the preparation. It's called the bone healing protocol. That is based on high doses of vitamin D3, because systemic bone healing and also obviously tooth repair, and there's a solid science behind it. And vitamin D3, let's say, is not really a vitamin. It's actually a hormone that is produced in natural sunlight. But I'm in Germany. There is no sunlight for 6 months of the year, so we have to supplement vitamin D3. Ideally, if we live in a sunny world, we could go out in the sun during the day and get brown skin and have a lot of vitamin D3 from that. Let's face it, even though in Summerland, most people are behind closed doors because they're working. So vitamin D3 is one of the critical things that we're also measuring. And I want vitamin D3 on the day of treatments above the norm. So it's not 30 to 60 nanogram, it's above 60 nanogram, or let's say in a nanomole range, it would be above 150 nanomoles. There's 2 different ranges. But it's not just the vitamin D3. We need that to get calcium out of the kidneys and the large intestine into the bloodstream. But we don't want to have calcium bricks lying around in your bloodstream and then calcifying your arteries. We want to have that in your teeth and your bones. So we need cofactors such as vitamin K2, magnesium, zinc to activate something in the receptor, boron is super crucial, methylated B vitamins, biotin. There's a host of micronutrients. And because I'm teaching this for over a decade, I've created a formulation that is called Bone and Teeth in Europe. Full disclosure, I have 2 companies one in Europe for over a decade, Subs Nutrition, and this is called Bone and Teeth. It combines the complete bone healing science. It's called Bone and Teeth, makes sense, right? Systemically, but we also have that for America, so that it's a one-stop shop, the invisible mouth guard basically, on how to water your plant, basically. This is the nutrients that your teeth need to be hard as stone, as well as your bones. It's called Tooth Shield in the US, if I'm allowed to say. And The company structure here is Supreme Oral Health. Yeah, but that's just the formulation that I was intrinsically motivated to design over, more than a decade now. And I just lately found I have a trademark name for the bone healing protocol, which is from 2014. So that's how long it's been there already. And obviously getting iterated every time, because I'm believing in version 2, version 3, version 4. It's always going to be developed. That's just my mind. And I just love to develop things and create things that are needed for many because of my teachings, because of seeing thousands of patients. It's a different approach, obviously, to just finding a product and selling it. This came naturally with everything. So, but obviously it's there. So it's also good maybe for a lot of listeners to know that it's existing and that it helps. There's some nutrients. Again, vitamin D3, K2, magnesium, zinc, boron, methylated B vitamins, biotin, and molybdenum and other, let's say, more trace minerals are also in there. Vitamin B6, molybdenum, and manganese are very important too. So it's a very well-rounded formula. I personally have the issue that my hair grows doubled fast as it should. Same for nails, but that's the same science. Bone, teeth, hair, and nail are just kind of like a little bit of the same biochemistry around it.
Okay, you talked a little bit about building somebody up with these supplements prior to coming to see you. How different is that day to day versus in that period of time leading up to the procedures?
You mean day to day?
Like dosage wise, is it I assume it's part of maintenance too, to take these nutrients, but does it differ when you're going to come and see you to build the body up?
Yeah, to build the body up, there's just phase 1. It is just higher. It's just higher doses. So on average, it's about 20,000 IUs of vitamin D3 in that phase for 2 months, including all the cofactors. But maintaining it, or if you just need that generally because you just want to do something to have strong teeth, because everybody actually wants strong teeth, right? You don't want to see a dentist, because you have tooth decay. Then you just do the normal amount, which is about 3,000 to 5,000 units of vitamin D3 a day, like the regular maintenance. So you probably can, when it only comes about, it's only about literally teeth and your bones and gums, you probably just solid with that one single formulation. There's everything in it. Obviously not enough for a complete surgery phase, because that's just rebuilding your house. You need more. You need more workers. You need more wood. You need more cement. You know what I mean? You need to rebuild stuff. So obviously we have also more amino acids then. We have more collagen, more protein. But that's supporting the actual, let's say, surgery phase. But maintaining it is something that needs to be maintained. So you never want to go below 60 nanogram per milliliter vitamin D3 in a lifetime. You want to stay in the high range. But when you're there, it's easy to maintain.
Early in our conversation, you went through your morning routine and shared a couple of supplements there, methylene blue and aminos. Talk about those two specifically and why you include them.
Amino acids, obviously, protein is the building block of life. And the parts of protein, the tiny building blocks of protein are amino acids. I mean, we know there's essential amino acids, which are 9, that we definitely need to get from food. If you take them in a powdered form, it's kind of like better living through science, because you do not need to digest a steak to get your hands on it. You get them straight away. So it's just an extra delivery. But the way I designed it is it's not just essentials. We have a couple of others that, for example, are precursors to your neurotransmitters. You maybe heard of dopamine, acetylcholine, serotonin, GABA. And obviously amino acids, if they're formulated the right way, we have tyrosine in it and a couple of other things, they will increase your more productive side of things during the day instead of making you tired. So you can also use them to give you more energy. The formula I've created also has a mitochondrial complex in it. There's creatine in it. There's magnesium malate in it, and various different amino acids to support liver phase 1 and 2 detoxification, because mainly detoxing is actually amino acid conjugation. So most people always think when they hear protein or amino acids, they usually think about bodybuilding and building muscle. But actually, it's your immune system first that needs the protein. It is your enzymes. It is 50% of your body's collagen. So a lot of it in your body is amino acids and protein and information, your neurotransmitters. And then the rest of it, if you have a little bit of a surplus, then your body will use it for your muscle. So you really have to have a lot. Otherwise, you will first obviously prioritize bodily functions. That's why at least we need to have 2 grams per kilogram ideal body weight. This is 1 gram per pound. And for athletes, sometimes that goes way higher, or after surgery can be higher. So it's a specific formulation that I've created also over years and years of trial and error and testing. And methylene blue is something I just usually do for courses. Let's say I do that 6 to 8 weeks at a time and then stop for the 6 to 8 weeks. Methylene blue is just, I would say it's like it is a antioxidant. It's redox potential. So it basically gives you electrons, which you need for your
mitochondria.
Yeah, exactly. In the mitochondria, for the mitochondria to produce ATP, you need a lot of electrons. And basically methylene blue gives you this. On the other hand, I don't use it in my mouth, or like you see it with biohackers with the blue tongue and stuff. I don't want to use it for my brain. I use it for my digestion. So it's also very strong antimicrobial. It also kind of like balances your gut microbiome too. So I see it as a little bit of in this case, it's not a fish tank cleaner. It is more like a intestinal cleaner. And yeah, we scan a lot. We have a lot of data on site. So a lot of our guests oftentimes have a ton of oxidative stress. And this is just a super nutrient or super molecule to balance the oxidative stress.
Did you say you don't take it through the mouth?
I take it, but I don't dissolve it in my mouth. I literally drink it so that it goes in my gut. I'm not a fan of, sometimes maybe the troches are good. If you experience, for example, brain fog or your brain is not fast enough, it's amazing for that too. My brain is working quite fine, so it kind of couldn't overstimulate me, so I don't like it. But I like it very much for my gut.
Got it.
And the overall antioxidation purposes.
Okay. Any other supplements you include? Fish oils? Other basic things that are...
Fish oil for me is not really a supplement. Fish oil for me is a basic nutrition. So we always have about 3 grams during that phase of real triglyceride-based omega-3 fatty acids and a lot of phospholipids from that because of our cell membranes. We actually measure that in that week when guests are here. We measure something called the phase angle, which shows how stiff your cell is. You know, your cell is kind of like if you look at your cell on a microscope level, maybe it is, let's say it's just round and it has an outer layer. It's called a phospholipid double membrane layer. And oftentimes this membrane gets stiff due to toxins in there, making it more rigid, but also the wrong oils. You kind of need an oil change. So omega-3 fatty acids, if they're triglyceride based and clean, obviously, they help a lot. But also phospholipids on top help, like phosphatidylcholine. Phosphatidylcholine is amazing. So that's included in the protocol. Vitamin C is included in the protocol. We have a specific enzyme to include in the protocol. Collagen, I already told you, because collagen is 50% of your bone. 50% of your whole body structure is collagen, even more. So we use a lot of collagen for gut healing and oral health care, oral healing. What else in the protocol? A lot of things are just basics for me, so they're not even. Magnesium is something I don't even consider as a supplement because it's just like basics. It is in all of these things. So, yeah, number 1 for me is the amino acid collagen drink in the morning. The methylene blue is an extra one. The bone and teeth is something, or the tooth shield in America is something I do every single day, because it covers strong teeth, strong bones, strong gums, very strong hair, nails, and it also helps with sleeping. It's all the same biochemistry behind it. It's methylation. It's just a good, well-rounded formula that I personally just have it like as the way you brush your teeth twice a day. That's how I use this also every single day. It's a maintained thing. I also want to have strong teeth all the time, even though I eat superfood and real food. I know that the nutritional quality, the soil is not the same as it was before. And I'm also not always in the sunlight. So that's why I include this single one always. Methylene blue, for example, it changes. I don't do this year round. Yeah. I mean, you probably do something like omega-3 fatty acids too. I think or creatine is something I just always have. It's in my amino acid formulation. It's in there. I don't even think about that.
All right, we're going to move now into some of your favorite topics. And we'll kick this off with your 3 questions you ask new patients. Any metals in the mouth, root canals, or have you had your wisdom teeth out? So let's take some time and go deep into each of these, starting with metals. So let's do a broad overview of different metals that can be found in the mouth and why they're problematic.
So yeah, in conventional dentistry, that's also something I studied 15 years ago. It's all about repairing your teeth and fixing smiles and bites, just biting. And obviously, over the last 100 years, we as a profession were very creative when it comes to the material, how to repair a tooth. So there's, let's say, a wide variety of metals we're using in the mouth to restore bites. And some of them are just very inherently toxic. So if we just start with the 3 challenges that metals have is none of these are actually found in the body naturally. They're usually below the ground. So metals can always be a trigger for your immune system if you just become allergic to them because they're foreign to the body. Second, some of these metals are just super toxic, meaning your body has to detox them on a daily basis. And third, in this world where we have 3G, 4G, 5G, EMF everywhere, every metal in your body, not just the mouth, everywhere, is becoming an antenna. So 3 challenges. If you go deeper, you might open your mouth and you see like a black silver kind of filling. And these black or silver fillings, that's the way they were marketed over years and years and years. They're not allowed to do this anymore. They're called amalgam fillings. Amalgam is a mixture there is maybe a tiny, tiny bit of silver in it, but it's 50% mercury in there. And mercury is the most toxic, non-radioactive element known to man. That just everyone knows that. But in your filling, it's also not bound. So when you have that filling, it outgasses a tiny microdose per day, but for 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, for the whole time that you are wearing these fillings. You're chronically intoxicating you with mercury. So over time, it becomes like quite the toxic burn. So it's about 2 to 3 microns per day. But that adds up in 10 years, 20 years, 30 years. And we have to remove this as highly toxic waste from the clinic when we remove it from a patient or guest. That from the beginning, I was like, that makes no sense. I could never place this in my mouth. And I also personally just back then when I didn't know about the toxicity of things, I just thought it's super ugly. I would never place something black in the mouth of a patient or guest because I would never do that for me. It looks shit. So if we have something white, why use it? Funny enough, since this year, 2025, it is completely banned in Europe. Finally, there's a complete mercury environmental ban, which then obviously also includes that a dental material cannot have mercury in it anymore. It's not that they tell this to us and tell us we have to stop it because we found out that that it could cause some issues. It's an environmental thing now, and at the dentist, it's going to be more expensive. That's how they market it now. But I understand because obviously, if everybody would know that this actually causes, let's say, or contributes to chronic health issues, no one can pay for that. So I get it completely, but I'm very, very happy that at least in Europe it's banned. In all the Scandinavian countries, it's banned for the same reason for more than almost 20 years. And in Russia, it's banned for 50 years almost. So it will take a little bit longer, but in America, I think they should follow soon and do the same. I mean, you're starting with the fluoride right now, and you will soon probably also stop that mercury poisoning because it's just unnecessary again. We have way better material. Maybe 50 years ago we didn't, but now we do. And then obviously, besides the mercury, we have gold. Gold is a precious metal, but it has nothing to do in your mouth. Your mouth is like an electrolyte. It's a saliva. It's like putting any metal that you put in the seawater. Think about the propeller of a boat underneath the sea. It rusts, right? Same happens over time. So there's little tiny molecules, ions from that metals that leach out on a daily basis because of the saliva from biting, and they go into your system. And they're usually very good at attaching to enzymes or protein structures or sulfur component structures in your system. So you're intoxicating yourself even further or making your body allergic to these ions. And then we have titanium implants. If you lost a tooth completely, when you have like literally no more tooth without root, give you a new tooth, you usually get a dental implant. And a dental implant, conventionally done, is a titanium implant. Titanium is another metal. We now know that there's a high population that is actually becomes sensitive to titanium dioxide. Titanium dioxide, for example, is a white coloring that is banned in Europe ever since 2 years ago. You're probably still using it in America. It's the white coating of stuff. But titanium implants have the same issue. When you screw them in, titanium oxide particles get released into the bone, causing chronic inflammation there. But there's also something, again, that has to do with a galvanism, meaning battery effects, but also corrosion, tribocorrosion, which is the rusting effect. So just overall a good strategy in this world that we're living in right now to go all metal free. And one of my specialties, we'll probably touch on this later, I'm one of the first international ceramic implant specialists. So I haven't placed a titanium implant, even though I'm a surgeon, an oral surgeon, dental implant specialist, for more than a decade. I didn't touch any titanium. I placed only ceramic implants, and I've placed more than 5,000, probably even 6,000 by now. I didn't even count anymore. And this was always very much arrows in my back from my colleagues. Luckily, since 2023, they're finally medical guideline in Germany. I was just a little bit ahead of the curve. So, because every guest out there, every patient listening in, if you go to your regular dentist for a new tooth, you probably get a titanium implant. And you have to question that and tell them, no, you want to have a ceramic implant. And for that, you obviously need a biological dental global standard to find the right people that are able to do this. So you don't get screwed with a titanium implant, but you get a white screw instead.
Talk more about the battery effect piece. You quickly touched on this, but if somebody has, say, a gold filling and then an amalgam, say, on the other side of the mouth, because there are two different metals there, it's this battery effect that's happening within our heads, which is crazy.
I mean, you just have to look into the physics or chemistry. No, it's physics of a battery. You have like a cathode and anode, and you have some electrolyte in between, and then there's a current, right? So basically, if you have two different, I don't know the word in German, in English right now, but if you have two different metals that are in the chain a little bit different. Let's say you have a titanium implant, titanium as a molecule, and you have a gold crown on top of it. There can be currents measured because of that saliva and that electrolyte. You have in that implant, you could measure a voltage, sometimes up to 3.5 volts. Like there's a real current. And some guests or patients are literally electro-hypersensitive. They feel electricity in their mouth. They taste metal in their mouth. And they even get super sensible around cell phone towers and everything. So that's not woo-woo. That's actually science. You just have to apply it. And even though maybe our industry dental standards that are oftentimes behind the teachings might not cover this yet, it is just simple physics and electrophysics and chemistry. You have to just put one and one together. That I'm not speaking anything bad about my conventional dental colleagues. It's just our training lacks updates here. And obviously, therefore, I have created the Institute of Biological Dentistry with the Biodentistry 3.0 certification, so that in that first course, we get a software update as our profession to then speak the same language, where this one obviously is covered with all the research and all the science that is there. It's just not in the medical textbook that we learned in dental university, because the curriculum in university was outdated when I studied it, and it was already outdated when my dad studied it. So it's just super slow. So the change will come from the guests, from the patients. That was my idea, even like years ago when I wrote this book. It was written for the layman. It's all in your mouth in English. I don't have an English one here right now, but I just saw this German one here. It is not a medical textbook. It's literally an explanation of the whole optimal health start to the mouth concept and how to apply this on a daily basis and what you have to ask your dentist for. And back then I didn't know how far this is going to go, but obviously it evolves 10x from that book already to what we're able to do. It's all growing always, like constantly transforming. And like I said, it's becoming a movement now. And hopefully we're going to have health hubs such as the one we have here all over the place in a few years.
One thing you said that really hit home for me when it comes to amalgams is the fact that they're accepted, not in Europe anymore, thankfully, but over in America, it's okay to have them in the mouth, but when you pull them out, they become a biohazard.
Yeah, exactly.
Like the disconnection there to me is just unbelievable.
But think about this. For me too, like in university, literally, I didn't learn that. In university, we would still learn how to do the technical graft of doing an amalgam filling, just a technique. We would actually put it in our fingers and play around with it. And that stuff is super toxic. It goes into your skin and into your cell within a millisecond. So we intoxicate ourselves all the time. But then I was in practice and I saw that sign, oh, there's an amalgam removal part and biohazard. And instantly I was thinking, wait a second, how can we place that in the mouth of patients and then remove it this way? So this knowledge, or obviously this thinking is self-motivated and maybe requires a little bit of outside box thinking, because back then already I was interested in optimal or overall health for me personally. So I obviously had another focus to it, but it's so logic. If you explain it to any patient out there or guest or listener, you initially understand it. The only problem oftentimes is the dentist that is just not up to date when it comes to knowledge, and maybe still not say, I don't want to say brainwashed, but still has the initial training from university. University is only the entrance card. This is not when you stop your profession. This is when it begins. This is when you see what you're going to do with it. You have a solid foundation about you're basically, at least in Germany, we're studying medical school and we have dental school at the same time. So it's just a medical profession. We are not dentists. We're called tooth doctors in Germany. Zahnarzt. Zahn, tooth, Arzt, doctor. Zahnarzt, tooth doctors. But we're missing the doctor. We're still dentists. We're only thinking about repairing this. So that's what I say. What we're doing is a complete change, from a complete transformation of our profession, from the technician that we still need to be to a health expert. The dentician or the technician, we still need to be in the highest excellence level with using only biomaterials that do not disturb the body in any way. But that is probably the easiest part to change. Understanding the intricacies of functional medicine and overall body health and gut healing and detoxification and biochemistry, that's the next level. But because I'm doing this for such a long time, I've developed protocols that are time proven already, such as the food design, the bone healing protocol that you get certified in as a real biodentist on your journey to the biodentistry global standard. So yeah, that's how we can create the blueprint out of what I've done the last 15 years it started ago, but having it in my own center for over a decade now, teaching for a decade, but now luckily finally on a global scale for a couple of years now. Yeah, that's cool, because like every day, like imagine also my personal transformation from like being a rock star dentist that was able to perform the first ceramic implants that no one did before. I could give you a new tooth in a day, but not with metal, but with ceramic, into a teacher that is when I do surgeries now, there's usually some sort of new real biodentist with me shadowing, learning all this, and then the guests appreciate it a lot. We have a lot of time with them, and changing a complete profession. It also requires a lot of mindset shifts for me personally too. Obviously, it takes some time. So I'm really loving that time right now. It's a complete new game, and I'm very, very happy and blessed that I'm on that journey, and I never stopped, even though I had lots of you know how it is. If you go against the stream, you get a little bit of like pressure. But you know, if you see a fish swimming to the source, they always go against, right? Because the source, the fountain is up there. Yeah, you have to go against the stream. Can you say that? So is that the right word? And
against the grain, Going upstream.
You have to go
Yes.
upstream to find the source. And this is what I did. And I was only doing this by gut intuition and by thinking. I was just focusing on, does this even make sense what I'm learning here right now? No, it doesn't. How can we change it? How can we change? Obviously, I wasn't thinking about all this from the beginning, but there was always something where I was like questioning the university already. Why? Because I was already interested in nutrition, in supplementation, in training, bodybuilding, overall health optimization, because of my own also health challenges in the beginning. So I needed to create a new kind of breed. And yeah, call them real biodentists now. And I love that. It's a huge tribe already. I mean, I've probably touched more than 1,000 dentists in the last decade. But for the real now certification process, we're like having about 50 to 100 right now. So it's going to be a big movement and brings the change that is much needed. Is it going to be for everyone at the beginning? No. I think we're going to have to start at the tip and then it will trickle down. But yeah, we have to start somewhere, right? To bring the change.
I agree. Let's come back to metals.
Yes.
We know they're bad for a number of reasons. And this is all metals. So let's say somebody tuning in right now has some kind of metal in their mouth, an old filling, or you mentioned the titanium that can be used as a post. What's the word for that when it's used as an implant?
As a root, that's called a dental implant.
Yeah, or root. Okay. So if somebody has metal in the mouth, whatever the metal is, what do they do to properly get that out?
Yeah.
If they want to go through, you or somebody like you that's doing this in a healthy way.
Yeah. So first of all, if you hear that, don't freak out. It's just new information for you that I want to provide because you're probably interested in ultimate health, right? And in order to have ultimate health, you have to be, somewhat optimized on all levels. And I believe your demographic and the listeners are already on a journey similar to you and know a lot of different things already and trying to optimize.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So usually if you try to optimize your whole body, but there's still a couple of things where you're not superhuman yet, then maybe have this new information. Could be a metal trigger, could be a root canal, could be one of these three questions. So then for the strategy is to find someone that is qualified to, first of all, have the technical skills to do this safely. We need to remove mercury especially safely, but every metal should be removed safely. When it comes to taking out a titanium implant and putting in a ceramic implant, the air becomes very, very thin of people that you find worldwide right now. But if you go with the more obvious things, such as you have a black amalgam filling, mercury containing, there's more and more people out there because there's a lot of teachings been done. So in America, you could just find, obviously, I think you're probably going to link to show notes and you will find the directory of people that I've trained.
Yeah, we'll link that up.
There are also certain levels to them. But each and every level, even level 1, knows how to remove metals safely. They're not necessarily do the titanium, but they do the mercury. However, if you use if it's just mercury fillings you're looking for, then there's the IAOMT. They certify dentists to be SMART certified, SMART certified. Nice word. Stands for Safe Mercury Amalgam Removal Technique. They will also have a good job, doing a good job removing your amalgam safely. However, if you need a titanium implant that is triggering you replaced, then you need level 3 training, and there are not too many right now. You find them on a directory. But what we do, for example, when you come see us, we will take out even the titanium implant and replace it immediately with the ceramic one. So that is possible. However, we've built a whole oasis, I think, because we're Destiny Clinic or Destiny Center, Health Optimization Center. That's why people come fly in. And because we're doing it all in one go, you save a ton of usual dental appointments. So oftentimes that's just actually cheaper and more charming to have a little vacation to Europe. That's why a lot of these guests come in, and I'm always happy to see. But on the directory, you will see the ones that are going to be able to do that too. So strategy first, don't freak out. It's a chronic thing. It is silent, but you now know, there's more to improve on my journey to optimal health. And then find what resonates with you and find, again, the right focus. It should be, in my opinion, optimal oral health optimization should be quite soon in a long-term health optimization strategy. Oftentimes I see people on that journey for 20, 30 years. still suffering because that part wasn't addressed. Why? Because it's not widely known and no standard processes here. Again, you understand why it's important for me to get that biodentistry global standard out there so that it becomes possible for all the listeners to come in. Because only last month, for example, our directory of the Institute had 300,000 patient visits. I'm not able to help 300,000 patients. Neither is all the ones that I've trained. So there need to be more and more. And luckily, there's more and more of an awakening overall. There's this global health trend after COVID that people are waking up, they're taking responsibility. The problem is, like we said at the beginning, it's too much information. They don't see the forest for the trees anymore. So that's when we come in and streamline their processes. So a lot of our guests, we actually take away a lot of the things they're doing, make light again, and then streamline it. And then they finally have it easier.
When somebody goes to get amalgams removed, we talked about the importance of finding somebody that's good at doing it, whether it be yourself or somebody that's SMART certified. What is different about that protocol versus what a conventional dentist would do to remove those?
It's not even comparable because what I saw in my learning years of how a conventional dentist usually removes amalgam is just basically drill that filling out. And by drilling it out, actually, you cause way more harm because I explained to you that the mercury vapor that comes out by chewing, grinding, eating acidic foods, drinking acidic drinks, hygienists, that little vapor is see-through. It's HC0 and it just goes into your cell. But if you drill it out, you obviously have way more vapor intoxicating you at that sitting. And you also swallow a ton of these molecules that will always stuck somewhere in your system. They don't get excreted all the way through. That's not possible. It's like a mud. So therefore, what we do is like we have a 7-fold system. We obviously locally use a rubber dam, but the rubber dam doesn't help against the vapor. It's just to basically collect fragments. Then we use a special suction. We have a huge outside suction called IQ Air, which is an air filter that filters about 99% of that mercury vapor. Because also, obviously, think about the dentist. We are intoxicating ourselves the most because we're not coming in for one dental amalgam removal for our lifetime. We remove maybe 10 patients a day, 10 years, and becoming super mercury toxic. So it's also about the staff, about yourself as a professional, an expert. So also we run IVs to balance the immune system. You don't get allergic to it. We break out the filling instead of drilling it out. We use chlorella algae in the cavity after removing it to bind toxins and many, many more things. And also have our guests on a strong protocol to support anabolism and detoxification, and especially binding after such a thing. So it's just a completely different approach. It's not the dental procedure becomes the least thing of what we do in that whole week. It is really like it feels completely different. You just have to see and visit, and then you know it's just a different game.
When it comes to filling materials, what do you guys use? And this would be helpful, obviously, somebody who is going to have the amalgams removed and refilled, but also somebody who has a cavity right now. What do they look to have that done in a clean way?
I think the easiest thing to use is just a regular composite. This is, again, I would say every skilled, normal, conventional dentist can do this. If they know how to remove the mercury safely, they just need to put in a new filling. And then depending on the size of the actual cavity, they might decide to go a different route. Composite is for smaller fillings. It's basically plastic with some sort of porcelain in it, in a simple way to explain it. But if it's a bigger hole in the tooth, you probably do an inlay, which is mostly ceramics. If it's even bigger, you do a partial crown, all ceramics, and you need a tiny little bit of the composite to make it stick for the adhesive procedure. And then if it's a huge defect, you do a crown. A crown is if the whole thing just goes on top of your tooth. But this is a technical thing to decide for a specific thing. Really go with ceramics and composites, just all white stuff.
And when it comes to implants, you're doing ceramic, and it sounds like finding somebody to do that is difficult at this time, but obviously worthwhile. When will somebody get an implant? Like, what kind of damage has to be done to a tooth to elicit the need for that?
Usually you get a dental implant if you have lost a tooth completely. So let's say you had a root canal that failed, you took it out, and then you have a gap, and you have two options for that gap. You have like a tooth and then another tooth, and in the middle there's a tooth missing. A dentist would maybe choose to do a bridge. That would be the old school way, that meaning bridging something over that gap. That means you would prep the adjacent teeth to put something on top. That's called a bridge. Could be done in all ceramics. However, you have to prep down your teeth and make them weaker to do this. So we naturally, because I'm an implant specialist, I would never do a bridge and always go for a single tooth in that gap. And I will implant a new root, but not of titanium, but of ceramic. And that needs to osseointegrate within a couple of months, and then we put a crown on top. It will stick out of the gum, and then there's a crown on top. That would be the normal scenario when you use a dental implant for most people out there. However, our specialty is to not even go that far. A lot of our guests come to see us for optimal oral health. They are informed, they have chronic inflammation, they had done a 3-dimensional x-ray, they know they have a lot of chronic inflammation on their root canals, for example. So we don't even wait until there's a gap. For us, and it is actually proven now in science, that the best point of an implantation is when you remove the actual dead tooth. So in that moment where you take out a tooth gently, instead of yanking it, we don't yank. We take out a tooth gently without touching your gum and your socket. Very, very gently wiggling it out. Then you have that socket. That's where you take out the tooth. And that socket will collapse within 3 months when the normal conventional dentist thinks about a dental implant. But we use a socket. We clean that, obviously. We use ozone. We use PRF. We use everything that's possible to clean that. But then it's clean. And then we place that ceramic implant straight into that socket, and that's called a socket preservation. And we could prove with science and papers that have come out now, because of our clinical work, that this conserves bone height and width. So I was attacked for doing immediate ceramic implants for at least 5 years, even 8 years, that this is like hurting people. And now it's clear that this is the protocol of the future. So first they laugh at you. You know how it works?
Yeah, there's a whole line of...
And they fight you, and then they use your protocols. So that's how it works. It's all good. But yeah, it's still, what I'm telling you right now is still 100% unheard for 99.9% of all my colleagues out there, even though we're doing it for more than a decade. So it's hard for you listeners to find someone. That's why I have this directory. And then obviously you have to look at the directory, who is close to you, who can do these ceramic implants, and then also go again with your gut feeling, who of these resonate with you. Because at the end, it's also a gut feeling if you like to be treated by me or my associates or someone in New York or whatever. That's up to you. But it's there at least.
And I've heard you talk about one of the benefits of these ceramic implants is the integrity of the gums and how they mingle over time with that versus titanium where it leaves a gap.
Yeah, so basically that's something that is quite clear in normal dentistry too, is that metal and the gum, they don't like each other. It's just always a little bit inflamed around it. And there's never a attached gum around a titanium implant. That just doesn't happen. But we know from studies that if you do a ceramic abutment, that the gum will grow on top of this ceramics. That's called keratin. There's going to be a keratinized gingiva around that. And this is amazing because what we actually built then is a immunological barrier again, because gum, tight gum, is skin, is an outside skin. It's like this one. You know, when you scratch it, it's going to be red and there's an opening. Same here. If you have an opening all the time, what happens is like the Niagara Falls for bacteria. They can just jump in all the time. That's how we find oral pathogens in your brain causing microglial cells to get inflamed, or in your joints, or somewhere else in your body where they're not supposed to be. That's because of leaky gum. And therefore, a ceramic implant is actually an endo inside the body, exo outside, mouth is outside body, Even though it looks inside, it's outside. Yeah. Prosthesis, endo-exoprosthesis. It sticks out to the gum, and the gum makes it tight because it closes the gap because it attaches itself to the ceramic implant. That's just amazing that it's even possible. And even though I don't even find that a ceramic implant is the best thing, because the best thing is your regular healthy tooth. But sometimes you lost it, and then we have to have a solution. By that I mean we have to revisit what our profession maybe, I wouldn't say it did wrong. It was just at that time the right thing to do. And now it's outdated, such as like, look at these tapes. There's a high 8, you know them? Like, it's a video camera. This is what we used in the 90s. Video camera, where I'm digitalizing these right now. Now we can film with an iPhone. Why would we use the same titanium implant that were invented before this at the same time as we have an iPhone 16 Pro Max in our hands filming like a camera, and we could have a ceramic implant? It's just an upgrade. We're just the next level. It's just outdated. So that's the only thing. It's not even against conventional dentistry. It's just next level.
Yeah, it's a good analogy.
It is, right?
Let's move into root canals, go deeper in that. Starting with who needs a root canal, what kind of injury to the tooth leads to that, and then why you're against them.
That is a controversial topic always in conventional dentistry. And also, obviously, again, a black and white thing. A root canal is a fine art. A root canal is an acute pain treatment. That means you, as a patient, had massive pain because you had tooth decay that went into the nerve inside, like a deep tooth decay. Bacteria kind of like invaded your pulp, which is the inside of your tooth, and your immune system caused an inflammation, and the pain from your tooth is the most insane neuralgia-inducing migraine-ish pain because your teeth are an extension of your brain. You feel it in your brain. It's hell. So we have to get you out of pain. And funny enough, in Europe, or Germany where I'm from, I think it's complete of Europe, a root canal is standard of care pain treatment. It actually is covered by the insurance. I only found out lately, actually, because of my worldwide teachings, that is actually not covered by the insurance in America. And it's actually super expensive. So that's the only time when you would need it from a acute pain point of view, but obviously you could also go with an extraction. I would go, instead of an extraction, I would always try to keep that tooth, actually, to be fair. Not necessarily do a full root canal treatment, including the later filling. But what we could do is phase 1 of root canal treatment is take out the pain, take out the live parts and put a medication in there and keep that shell as a temporary, because that tooth still conserves the whole anatomy. I just explained to you, if you take out a root, the bone collapses. So you don't want to yank out the teeth, but see that root canal as a long-term temporary. Because from a more biological, holistic point of view, you then have a dead organ in your body. And this is just not optimal. Does it work for biting? It does. It does work for biting for 80% of you guys out there for 20, for 30, 40 years. No doubt about it. Is this the most health conscious choice? I don't think so. I feel that that could be the trigger holding you back from superhuman health. For some people, it's tremendous. They just have not the resilience to do this. The immune system is constantly fighting it. Some people are more resilient. They kind of like compensate it, don't even feel it, don't have a problem with it. But again, I'm working with guests from the outer realm, chronic inflamed, chronic sick, extremely high performance athlete, high performers, entrepreneurs, people that need to be on the edge. They need a 10 out of 10. For these people, it is not good to have a constant chronic fight in your jawbone with bacteria, toxins, and whatever, while you want to sprint a marathon, or you're working 12 hours, or you have tons of other things to do. It's just holding you back from superhuman health or actually be detrimental. So it's, again, nuanced. It doesn't kill you. It is a chronic silent inflammation, but we all agree on chronic silent inflammation being the trigger number 1 for chronic disease. And that is the killer number 1 these days. It's the epidemic. It's not the pandemic. The epidemic is that we're getting chronically sick. We're getting more and more into that. And I think there are better solutions. That's basically it. And luckily, we're not in the area where holistic dentistry started, where we just yank out all the root canals and have no solution and leave you like without teeth. That is not good and not a smart, straightforward idea. We're in the area where we can take out this root canal, if it is a root canal, get very gently, put an implant, put a temporary on top, you don't even see it. It just needs about 3 months, like a cast. Yeah. The temporary is a cast to osseointegrate it while you're on a bone healing protocol. And then you come back with beautiful teeth, with a beautiful osseointegrated ceramic implant that loves the gum, and you just put on a crown, and it's a pain-free and swelling-free treatment. I mean, that is the next level. It's not even controversial to dentistry at all. Anything technical, that is just an upgrade in our technical skills. The real upgrade is changing our profession from that technician mindset to the overall health expert, where this dental implant just becomes a tool to optimize our guests' health. I don't even think about that ceramic implant anymore. I've done so many. For me, that's just the side. It's just in there. It's just in the planning of the architecture of the new health. Versus most dentists are, even if they graduate to biological, for them, it's just about the technique right now and placing that ceramic implant. They're not even at the level yet where they can think about all the other protocols. But that's what I said. That's the biodentistry global standard that we're working on right now. It's happening right now. The momentum is there. Oral health momentum is finally there anyways. Like Huberman finally talks about oral health, having colleagues in there. Obviously not as deep as we're doing it right now. It's more the superficial level, but at least last year he had an episode where he brought in, he just talked about oral health, like from a surface level, including it into the 7 pillars of oral health. I also saw Brian Johnson talking about oral health and about his regimen. I also saw Peter Tia and listened to Peter Tia about this. So obviously we can go nuance and go deeper and deeper, and I'm quite sure that I'm going to meet these guys and going to speak with them about the next levels too. But I love that I can see finally dentists coming out. There's so many realms like functional dentists in America, which is a functional dentist is basically a conventional dentist that thinks more functional, meaning they think about the fluoride in the toothpaste. They go more natural. They think about the nutrition maybe. But they're oftentimes, for example, pediatric dentists, they don't even know about the root canal issues or how to fix them. So we have a solution that we provide to change the complete profession. That's just going a little bit more deeper and deeper and deeper. So I think the oral health topic just starts to come into this system. And I'm very happy about it because I'm kind of like trailblazing it for quite some time here from overseas in Germany. And I'm very happy to see that. But yeah.
Well, let's wrap up on the third big question that you ask people. Have they had their wisdom teeth out?
Yeah.
Why do you ask that? And secondarily, why are so many people having these removed?
So I'm asking this question, and that's usually the funny question at the end. I do that. I think that's more like my, not USP right now, but this is on every keynote because I find it so fascinating. Because I usually speak actually on health optimization, of the Health Optimization Summit, for example. It was coming to Austin this month actually for the first time. So to people that are already, like the listeners, they're already optimized. And if I ask them these 3 questions, then the complete audience stands up with this third question. It's so funny because then you see there's more to optimize. That's why I showed this. So why do I ask it? Because in the Western world, actually, 80% of us, I would say, it's just a guesstimation, but 80% of the listeners have their wisdom teeth removed because of the issue that we're growing too narrow. Again, that comes back to full circle nutrition, maybe also 2 generations of wrong nutrition, even more, getting epigenetically into your DNA. They're growing more narrow. That means because we're growing more narrow, we already have systems that deal with this. Like we see on an X-ray, oh, this person will not have space for wisdom teeth. Let's just pull them out before they're even grown out because it's easier to do a surgery just technically when you're younger. And then your braces will work more beautiful and the wisdom teeth never come out. So that's a thought process. It's again a Band-Aid and it works. It's a wrong epigenetic issue. Obviously, the development of your jaw starts with it actually starts in the womb, but then immediately with breastfeeding. That's the first orthodontic treatment. A lot of people have cesarean sections. Women couldn't breastfeed. I'm very sorry about you, the guys, that you couldn't do that. I know it's not always possible, but if you can, it's the best thing for your baby to do. It feeds the immune system. It gets transferred a lot of emotions, and obviously is a treatment to pull that jaw forward, and also teach nose breathing. So that would be a part of it. But initially, it's a spacing issue. It is a sign of chronic de-evolution, of degeneration, of less nutrition, more processed foods, And yeah, degeneration, because 10,000 years ago, we actually had space for 2 wisdom teeth. Imagine that. We probably had a more square jaws, more space, like way bigger, and never had to wear any braces. Versus our teenagers in the Western world, usually all of them get braces. It's kind of like the school leave is included when the wisdom teeth need to get pulled. It's kind of like in the curriculum already. And then on top of that, I'm asking this question because what happens because of these surgeries is that these little kids, mostly or teenagers, they're not prepared for a surgery. So they kind of like come into a shock moment. They're getting a surgery. It's going to be rough. You're going to be swollen. You have pain a lot, but you're not prepared and you're not treating systemically. So what happens is that comes as a shock to the system and your body doesn't recover here and is not able to be anabolic enough to build bone tissue here. And it only closes secondarily, like the gum will be closed and there will be a little bit of cortical bone, but inside oftentimes not enough nutrients to build spongeous bone. And therefore we create so-called cavitations. In layman's terms, that stand for caves in the jaw, but in the medical world, it would be called FDOJ, fatty degenerative osteonecrotic jawbone, or NICO, which stands for neuralgia-inducing cavitation or osteonecrosis. Basically just an ongoing construction site, a chronic silent inflammation in your jawbone that you're not even aware of, that could be triggering all chronic health issues that you have. Could be the trigger for your bad skin, for your eczema, could be the trigger for your SIBO in your small intestine, could be the trigger for your frozen shoulder, could be the trigger for ulcerative colitis ulcer, could be the trigger for anything that you couldn't figure out yet on your journey to optimal health. Is it always cause number one? No, but it's a big contributing factor. It's a chronic silent inflammation. Main issue here, it's not taught in university. You need a 3-dimensional x-ray for it, and you need a skilled real biodentist who knows about it. Otherwise, you wouldn't diagnose it on an x-ray. So it doesn't even make sense to do a cone beam with a conventional dentist who has never heard about cavitations. Because cavitations, again, are a knowledge gap. They're not trained commonly. So it's a software update that we need so that we understand that it's even existing. Because probably you're going to be belittled at your dentist for telling that it's quackery. It is not. You again need to go to our directory, find a real biodentist. They will know about it. They will be as truthful as they can if they have that level of experience to do the surgery, or they will refer you to another one on the directory that is on that level. We all work in co-elevation. There is no competition in my world. We are a community of like-minded real biodentists that want to change and bring the biodentistry global standard, not separate islands.
How often do you see somebody that has had their wisdom teeth out, say as a teen, and now they're an adult, and they don't have cavitations?
Yeah, that's a good question. Below 2%. It a little bit depends on where they were a teenager. If they were a teenager in a sunny, very natural country, let's say they come from Southern America, like Central America or Africa, then it happens more often. But if they're from Germany or North America, 95% have cavitations because it's just a rough surgery at the wrong timing, unprepared. The body is in shock and has not have the right nutrients to build. Imagine I was 14 when I took out these teeth and 15. I would smoke, I would drink, I would eat shitty foods. I definitely wouldn't be prepared for surgery. I just know I have to go to see a doctor tomorrow because my parents told me that, and I was there. And then I looked like Rocky Balboa after that for a week.
And you had cavitations later in life, correct?
Huge cavitations. And that was actually, I was guinea pig number one because back then, that's also how I teach my real biodentists. We start with ourselves. I call them real B because we're being real and have to practice what we preach. I started personally. And when I took this out, and also the doctor that took it out for me, I took it out for him, we had such an extreme health shift and transformation afterwards. Like I literally had so many chronic health issues by then already. I was only early 30s. I had like Parkinson's like hands, a very nervous hands, and a lot of eczema, a lot of basically an overstimulated nervous system. Fight and flight was causing it. We took out these cavitations, and that nervousness was gone on the next day, and my skin was beautiful after 10 days. And I never got any eczema or rash again. I was lucky because I was already on a nice nutritional protocol, because that was my lifestyle already back then. Even though we didn't do the surgery the way I would do it today, with all the protocols I've developed ever since, because I was guinea pig number one, I knew what we should do better. I still survived it and recovered, but I did everything wrong you could do wrong. I didn't have a rest day. I didn't do this in a healing environment. I did this after a 12-hour day of surgery because I thought it's going to be an easy thing. Just cut me open, do that. And on the next day, I had another 14-hour surgery where I was basically holding an ice pack and doing surgery. So it was stupid on my end. But it was a big teaching for me personally and a learning experience to make it better for my guests and develop protocols so that doesn't happen again for them. Because that's my responsibility to bring the best. Yeah, because the goal is not to do surgery. The goal is to be as minimal invasive so that you have no pain and no swelling, or as little as possible in that week.
All right, Dr. Dom, we're going to leave it there. We're going to link up in the show notes that directory, your social media, your website. Thank you for all you're doing in the world and for this great conversation. I appreciate you.
Thanks, Jesse, for having me. Appreciate you too.
Now that you're done, you're going to want to stick around here and catch this other incredible episode. You don't want to miss it. I'll see you over there.
We use the word metal, we use the word amalgam, silver fillings. They're all the same. They're half mercury and half silver, and they add other alloys in there. So a lot of people are going to their dental offices. They're saying, take them all out. It's not being done.